Hey everyone, welcome back. I know you guys have been waiting for the Bastet guide, but I have been busy with some stuff recently, causing a delay in uploading the Bastet guide. I'm sorry for making you guys wait. Let's start the guide quickly. Bastet is a trace type unit and she can get a trace with skill 1 and skill 2 upon hitting the enemy. Her normal attack consists of 5 animation and trigger Divine Gauge state when the last strike hits the enemy. You can see the purple effect on the screen and change the skill tree icon when you get in Divine Gauge state. You can trigger Divine Gauge state with skill 3 by consuming one trace. Divine Gauge state will give additional effect on skill 1 and skill 2. Skill 3 changes into AoE damage dealing skill in Divine Gauge state. This state lasts for 9 seconds but ends immediately after you use any skills. Skill 1 deals shadow damage and enhanced skill 1 will reduce the shadow resistance of enemy. Skill 2 deals shadow damage and enhanced skill 2 will inflict stun on enemy for 2 seconds. Bastet becomes invincible when she disappears during skill animation and can catch the back of the enemy if skill is used near from enemy. Skill 3 expands one trace and enters the Divine Gauge state. Once Bastet enters Divine Gauge state, Skill 3 become AoE dealing skills and become invincible during skill animation. Also, Skill 3 does not interrupt the strike count of normal attack, so you can trigger Divine Gauge state quickly by using Skill 3 at the first strike of normal attack. Extremity dodge will not trigger 0 time, but if you press normal attack after extremity dodge, will teleport Bastet to behind of locked on enemy and attack. If this attack hits, Bastet gets into Divine Gauge state. Ultimate skill deals the shadow damage and the damage will be increased based on HP of enemy per normal enemies and mode index for elite and boss unit. The higher HP and higher mode index, the more damage enemy gets. And modified mode will be treated as 100% mode index, which will give maximum damage bonus for elite and boss unit. The playstyle of Bastet will be different between codes, so let's check the code next. Yellow code is good for normal enemy stage. Skill 1 damage is increased and more importantly, skill 3 will leave moon trail mark on locked on enemy for 9 seconds. Only one enemy on the field can have mark and this unit gets additional damage. Skill 2 is now teleporting to behind of enemy if enemy has mark. Once Bastet hit the enemy with mark by skill 1 or 2, skill 3 become damage skill and if Bastet defeat the enemy with this skill, she recover all the traces and reset the cooldown of all skills. So in this code, you need to defeat the enemy with the skill 3. Once you use skill 3 to leave mark, you can use skill 3 damage skill if the enemy has low HP, or skill 1 or skill 2 first to lower the HP of enemy, then finish with the skill 3 damage skill. If Bastet has enough damage, you can just repeat skill 3. If failed to kill the enemy with the skill 3, use other skills to enemy with the mark to refresh skill 3 damage skill. If other skills are on the cooldown, quickly trigger Divine Gauge state with normal attack or dodge effect to use skill 3 damage skill. Red code enhance the dodge effect with high critical damage buff. For each hit with skill or normal attack will increase critical damage by 9%, stack up to 9 times, which will increase the critical damage by 81% in total. Skill 3 now gives one trace instead of consuming trace. And you can reset the cooldown of dodge effect by consuming one trace. So if you can manage to have at least one trace when you dodge, you can spam the dodge effect. However, you will lose all critical damage bonus buff and traces if you get hit by enemy. So this code has higher risk than other codes and damage output will be decreased a lot if you get hit during combat. Blue code has good supporting abilities with damage. Trace limit is increased by 1 and last track of normal attack now gaining 1 trace instead of getting into Divine Gauge state. Skill 3 now expands all traces and reset the cooldown of skill 1 and skill 2. Also based on the number of trace expanded, skill damage is increased and reduction of shadow resistance and stun effect also strengthened. So in this code, use skill 1, skill 2 and normal attack to gain 3 traces, then use skill 3 for maximum damage and additional effect bonus. It is advisable to use skill 1 after skill 3 as skill 1 has highest damage output with shadow resistance reduction effect. With the help of this trace sigil, you can get full traces with skill 1 and skill 2 at the beginning of combat, but you need last strike of normal attack to get extra trace when the sigil set skill is under cooldown. In this case, you can use skill 3 during normal attack to save the strike count as we checked earlier. However, you will lose this count saving if you get hit by enemy, so you can simply use skill 3 with 2 traces or use full normal attack without concerning of getting hit. Lastly, you can choose 2 red, 1 yellow code for ultimate skill chain focus setting. In this setting, you attack and get the maximum critical damage bonus from red code, and use skill 3 before launch ultimate skill chain to put the mark on the enemy for additional damage bonus from yellow code. If you want to max out the damage, you need to check on the mode index and try to use ultimate skill chain in modified mode. However, same as playing red code, you should not get hit by enemy before using ultimate skill chain for critical damage bonus. If you want to use Bastet as your main dealer, Signature Functor is highly recommended. It gives a lot of damage buff and every attack from behind of enemy will become critical hit. Additional damage bonus and invisible effect from skill 3 is also very powerful, so again, it is highly recommended to get Signature Functor if you want to use Bastet as your main dealer. Before Omega rank, you can equip this Shadow Damage Sigil with Trace Sigil and add Melee Damage Sigil for more damage output or Nibel Sigil for ultimate skill chain when Bastet become Omega rank. You can try Sword of Roland Sigil for maximum ultimate skill chain damage in modified mode. For Enchant, go for usual damage options such as attack, critical rate damage, shadow damage, ultimate skill damage, and etc. For Warp, let's check for ultimate skill chain setting first. You can choose Power of Melee and the Executioner or mix with the Judge based on the rank. Next, go for EM Flux with Telepathize Postpill 2 and choose Ultimate Equation with Kinetic Mode or Absolute Zero. For skill flow setting, change the Executioner to Evolution Particle 1 with Telekinesis Spectre 1. Then change Telepathize Postpill 2 to 1. Lastly, go for Kinetic Mode with Flashback Core 3. For ultimate skill chain setting, you need Kuni then Hera for damage buff. Other than that, you can add Bastet with Shadow Damage Dealer for shadow resistance reduction with damage. So what do you think about Bastet? In my opinion, she is one of the best A rank characters so far. She has decent damage output with speedy gameplay with fun mechanics. Also can transcend to Omega rank easily, so highly recommend to invest on her. Anyway, I hope this guide has been helpful. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next one. Bye guys.